Hey everyone, welcome to Friday. Welcome to the weekend. Friday means jersey concepts here on the channel. And today we're looking at gradient designed themed jerseys, NHL jerseys, and these are by Brendan. So kind of a cool theme to kind of go with, doing a bit of a gradient for every single team. Some teams can get away with it. I think of teams like, Tampa Bay has used a gradient. Vancouver's used a gradient. Then there are teams that it just kind of feels right for, maybe like Anaheim. But some teams putting a gradient with their stuff, maybe like Montreal or Detroit, I don't know about that. So this is not going to be a reaction video. I have looked at these. This is going to be a ranking video. However, it's only 31. There is a Seattle jersey in here, but Brendan, I think, forgot the Carolina Hurricanes or forgot to include it, and I just noticed it prior to me filming right now, and it's too late for me to kind of go back and chase him for that Carolina one. So apologies, Carolina fans, but there's not going to be any Hurricanes jersey in this video. Only 31, including Seattle, and I've ranked them 1 to 31, but we're going to go through them at 31 to 1 in reverse order. My least favorite to favorite, and we're going to have some fun here. So let's get into it, and let's start the ranking. Okay, so starting off with last place here, I put the Buffalo Sabres for one reason only. It doesn't have a gradient. All the jerseys you're about to see after this all have very obvious gradients. I don't see one in this jersey, so I don't know if he maybe provided the wrong jersey concept or what in the series, but I personally don't see any gradient here, and I decided to wear Buffalo for that reason. So Sabres fans, I apologize for putting your team last, but it's not because I don't like the jersey. And if we're talking about just the jersey in general, I like that jersey a lot, actually. It's a really nice jersey concept. So thumbs up to the jersey concept, but thumbs down for it not actually having a gradient and being within the theme of this, the rest of the jerseys. So let's move on to the actual jerseys with gradients. And number 30 is going to be Vancouver. This is a wild concept. Part of me really likes this, actually, and the other part of me is just like, that's too much. It looks like a specialty jersey. Not that that's wrong. This is a gradient series. This isn't about gradients in homes or gradients in aways or alternates or whatever. It's about gradients in general. So yeah, it's a little out there, but it does have some pretty nice gradients. The green flowing up the left arm, or I guess technically right arm, up and along the shoulders, down into the V, which is part of their graphical history, and then transitioning up into the blue in the other arm. That is actually a really, really nice transition, as well as including the other colors from their brand, which is the red, which is the yellow, and having that transition as well. Like, innovation-wise and creatively, it's a really good idea. I don't know if it necessarily translates well into a jersey design. It might be the black, and it might be the fact that it doesn't exist. If it existed in person, I got to see it with the right textures and the right lighting and stuff, I might be like, whoa, that's a crazy jersey, and I really like it. I'm not sure. It could just be the template, but this is a really nice template, by the way. But yeah, I had to rank it low because it's a little bit too wild for me right at the moment. Number 29, the St. Louis Blues. And while I am a fan of this general design, it reminds me of the alternate and or the reverse retro, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I'm a big fan of that. I'm in the minority, I know. That logo in the middle is used on their shoulders in some of their jerseys, which is a very, very nice shoulder patch or alternate logo. So it looks good on the front of the jersey. The numbers really, really pop on the blue. I'm a big fan of that. And then the gradient along the bottom, that's the bread and butter of this whole series. It's a nice transition from the yellow into the red, but it does feel... it feels a little bit, not necessarily out of place, but it just feels maybe too close to the alternate or the reverse retro. I would have maybe expected something a little bit more original from St. Louis, and yeah, it's not really that I dislike the jersey at all. It's just that the gradient isn't the most prominent, interesting feature for me. It's actually the logo on the front and the numbers popping, so it kind of comes down to that. Number 28, the Montreal Canadiens. It's always difficult to rank my favorite team this low, but objectively, not really a fan of the gradient placement here. And like I said at the beginning of the video, teams like Detroit and Montreal and maybe Boston and Toronto, tough. Like, these are very classic and structured teams as far as how they design jerseys and their logos and their graphics and stuff. They don't take a lot of risks, and so it feels odd to see a bit of a risk, aka a gradient, in a Canadiens jersey. So I think some people may like this, but I personally don't. I just find it very, very out of place. Number 27, I put the Calgary Flames, and there's some really cool aspects of this jersey. I kind of like the shoulders, and I kind of like the design, almost replicating the Blasty striping a little bit. There's a gradient in there. It almost looks like spray paint, though, not a super fan of that texture of gradient. The logo in the middle I found quite interesting, having the gradient in there. I think that could have some application. I don't see great application here. It almost detracts from the rest of the jersey, or the rest of the gradient, because it's a horizontal gradient, whereas the gradient below is a vertical gradient going up and down. So those two opposite of gradients kind of clash against each other for me. So I ranked it low for that reason. Number 26, the New York Rangers. So again, kind of like the teams like Toronto, Montreal, it feels a little almost inappropriate to kind of put a gradient with such a classic brand. It actually doesn't look too bad, but it does definitely feel a little bit foreign. It feels like the jersey stops almost at the belly button, and the rest is just kind of something else. I don't know, maybe an undershirt or something. So not a terrible design, but the gradient definitely throws me off a little bit. Not Brendan's fault. He threw himself a hard and difficult hand, and he did a good job on a lot of these. So I'm being a little bit critical, but that's kind of the point of the video, is to be critical of some of this stuff. All right, moving on to number 25, the Edmonton Oilers. There are a lot of positive things about this jersey. I love the logo colorized like that on the blue. I think that actually looks pretty good. It's not my favorite rendition of their logo colorization that I've seen in any concepts, but it's quite good. I kind of like it. It reminds me of the reverse retro in a way, but not. It's hard to explain. Now the bottom striping, the gradient in there, I like a lot. The shoulders, a little awkward, definitely a little bit awkward. I think if this jersey existed in person, I would like it quite a bit more, but for right now, we'll put it in 25th. Number 24, the Chicago Blackhawks. As a jersey itself, I really like this. The design is great, but as far as the gradient goes, it's very almost non-existent. We got bright colors on the outside of the arm. As they move in, they dim down and become desaturated, transitioning into more desaturated pieces on the inside of the middle, and then brightening back up in the middle, which we can't see because it's behind the logo, and then continuing that kind of pattern all the way to the other side of the arm. It's subtle, it looks good, but there's not much of a gradient there. And where this is a gradient series, I felt like it would be kind of wrong to kind of put this up and higher in the rankings, top 15 or whatever. I like the jersey, I like the concept, but as far as a gradient in the series, have to put it down at the bottom. Number 23, the Boston Bruins. I prefer, for whatever reason, when Boston comes out with these alternate jerseys that are very simple, the very old school, like the Winter Classic one, and then that dark black alternate. I have both. I love both. Awesome jerseys. I tend to also like concepts that mimic those same styles, like this one. However, a gradient with black or brown and yellow just doesn't work. It ends up looking like toilet water to me, and I'm just not really a fan of that. Again, not Brendan's fault. Very difficult hand he dealt himself, specifically with this one, with the colors. I'm not even sure what you do to make this better. But he did a wonderful job on the rest of the jersey, but I felt like the gradient wasn't totally fitting, for me personally anyway, subjectively. Number 22, the Pittsburgh Penguins. This definitely has a lot going for it. The transition, the gradient is quite harsh. I would have maybe preferred to see a bit of a more gradual gradient, starting at the bottom of the numbers and then working its way down to the bottom of the sleeve, maybe a little bit more gracefully than we see here. It's a little too harsh for me. Number 21, the Colorado Avalanche. I like the jersey design, and I also like the gradient here. Again, it's a bit harsh, but it almost provides a bit of outer glow. And when I think about mountains, like, there's two ways to look at this. You can look at the burgundy piece and then see the white as kind of the outer glow from that, or almost the white drop shadow. Or you can look at it the other way, where you're looking at the blue, and then the white is like the snow on the top of the mountains. So cool jersey in that aspect. This big giant piece coming up here, I've said this a bunch on the channel, guys, with concepts. I don't like that, because anything protruding like that coming up from the middle of the crotch region makes me feel awkward, or the viewer, so I would just avoid kind of that shape there. But really cool design, how you can kind of see two different things in this jersey. I thought it was a really cool move by Brendan with that. Number 20, the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's difficult to replicate the gold fleck in some of these templates. This jersey, if this existed, and that gold was the typical gold, sparkly gold that we like from Vegas, this would look much better. But since it's a template, it's very hard to translate that unless you go the extra effort and actually put that texture in there. So I don't want to take marks away from that, but I kind of have to at the same time. Now, the gradient aspect is extremely subtle, but I think with Vegas, when I think about Vegas, I think of the shine. So I think he did the right thing here, okay? He made the shoulders gold, which would be the prominent aspect here, but then he he added the gradient very subtly in the rest of the jersey, which I think was the right move. If it was harsh or if it was brighter or anything, too much. So he made the right move here as far as how to implement the gradient. However, it's a little bit dull, so I'm conflicting with this one. Let's move on. Number 19, the New York Islanders. So almost a completely different brand here from the Islanders, which is okay. I like the wavy pattern along the bottom, and then the gradient in the water makes total sense. Rivers, lakes, oceans naturally have gradients depending on how far the sun penetrates down into the water. That's just how it works. So I like that that's replicated here. It's not only a gradient, it also sets a scene, which is kind of nice. A little awkward seeing that logo shaped like that on the front of the jersey. I kind of miss their actual logo, which is on the shoulder here in this aspect. So maybe swap the logos, and I would like this a little bit more. Number 18, the Minnesota Wild. Harsh, contrasty gradient here. I think it has a lot of potential, so I wanted to put it in the top 20. But the contrast is definitely harsh, and it almost looks like spray paint. It's not very fine detailed. It's very almost granular. You can see like the little dots. So that was a little bit too texturized for me. But again, lots of potential here. Number 17, the Anaheim Ducks. I really like this jersey in black. It makes the orange pop so much. It looks amazing. And then the logo, the best logo in my opinion on the front. Good decision by Brennan here. But then the gradient is done just ever so subtly in the arms and along the bottom. So I think that's probably the right decision. But you could also be pretty aggressive, I think, with a gradient with Anaheim. They in California, amazing sunsets. You know, the sky is pretty much always a gradient at a couple times a day, I'm sure, in the morning, at night. So I think you could be pretty bold. I was thinking maybe the orange alternate, transitioning from orange maybe to white or to something else. I think you could be pretty aggressive. But he went the subtle touch. This isn't the direction that I would have gone personally, but he went for it, and it still looks good. So just because there's two different opinions doesn't mean that there's one right or wrong. He made a decision that I wouldn't have, and I still think it looks good. So shout out to Brennan for going the subtle route with Anaheim, and nice jersey. Let's move on. Number 16, LA Kings. Harsh gradients, but nice at the same time. I guess sometimes the harsh gradients work and sometimes they don't. I like these colors a lot. It reminds me of the reverse retro, the original jerseys. The logo itself, I don't know how I feel about the Kings font not having a bit of a drop shadow or a black stroke on it or something, just to differentiate it from the background a little bit. I find it gets slightly lost in the gradient. It's so distracting in the background that I would probably add a little bit of pop on the word Kings. I don't mind the Los Angeles because it's right on the solid purple at the top, but that transition point between the purple and the yellow where the Kings are, I just want some more pop there. And it also, that black border would also help balance with the shoulder patches and the rest of the jersey. So I like the stripes along the bottom. I think those are cool. I would just fix the main logo. Number 15, the Detroit Red Wings. This was tough. Half of me really liked it and half of me really didn't, so I had to put it in the middle. And I do that a lot with Detroit because I have a hard time deciding what would work and what wouldn't. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I like that he didn't go straight white with it. He went black and then and then transitioned almost into like a cool gray or something. Could just be my monitor, but it almost has this like bit of a cool blue look to it. So it's not gray on my screen. I don't know if I would prefer it to be gray, but as it looks on my screen right now, with a bit of a coolness to it, I think it kind of works. The jersey itself is very simple, which was the right decision for Detroit in my opinion. So I think this has a lot going for it, but I don't know. I'd love your opinion on this one, Wings fans. Let me know. Number 14, we got the Winnipeg Jets, and we've got some crazy, vibrant stripes here along the arms in the middle bottom of the jersey. I really, really like it on the arms. I think there's too many actual white stripes in the bottom middle of the jersey. I would remove the inner bottom and inner top one and just have the white at the top, white at the bottom, and just have the same gradient in there. I think it's a little bit too busy when you start adding gradients and 4 stripes within there. A little bit too much for me, so I would remove the busyness from the bottom of the middle, and we're talking. Number 13, the Ottawa Senators. Wonderful job here. Very subtle gradients, and this was a really good implementation of a lot of gradient, actually. It goes from arm all the way to the middle, all the way to the other arm on big, thick stripes, but it's done so subtly that you almost don't notice it. You see the logos first on the arms and in the middle, and that looks good. So good balance here for sure. Number 12, the San Jose Sharks. I have a feeling a lot of people will actually disagree here with my ranking, but there's just something about this, and I think it's because I want them to wear orange pants, and I don't think it would work, but I just think it would be funny to look at. So because it starts with black at the top, it goes down, and then it starts into the gradient. You get the teal into the black again, and then into the orange. So the bottom of the sleeves are orange, the bottom of the middle jersey is orange. The pants could be orange to kind of help with the rest of that flow. That flows down into the orange pants. It would look ridiculous, but I kind of like it. Like, I would love to see that. So I like his approach here. I don't think that was his intention. I assume that he suspected that they would wear black or dark gray pants, but I selfishly kind of want to see orange pants. So that makes me like the jersey more. I know that's kind of silly reasoning, but I like the gradient as well. There's actually a couple of different transition points in it. So yeah, cool jersey for sure, but I do think I'm in the minority. I don't know if anyone else would put this in their top 15, but let me know if you would. Number 11, we got the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I guess I said at the beginning it's difficult to kind of implement the gradient into certain teams depending on how old they are and stuff. And Toronto was an example that I used, but I forgot that this was the Toronto design, and I really like it because he does a great job here. He just does it at the bottom. The rest of the jersey, very classic, very original 6, and on the bottom, just a very easy gradient from white along the bottom into the blue. You almost don't notice it, and I think that is the right decision for Toronto. Number 10, the Philadelphia Flyers. This was aggressive, but I like it at the same time. He does the general design of the Philadelphia Flyers, but it's the harshness of the black to the bright orange happens very quickly. It's very aggressive, but I like it. I just don't know if it's too much. It almost feels like it's on fire, and the fire is moving in. It's closing in on the middle of the jersey, or it's already been there and it's moving out, and it's like the black charcoal is remaining. I don't know how to look at this jersey, but it makes me think, and making me think is a good thing, I think. And this is a cool jersey. Let's move on to number 9, and that's going to be the Washington Capitals. So I'm getting kind of mid-90s vibes, reverse retro, obviously, with the proper logo in the middle. I like the design at the bottom, and again, a very subtle gradient along the bottom, and at the top, you almost don't notice it, and that was the right call. Really like this jersey a lot. Number 8, the Seattle Kraken. Much like the Islanders, Seattle Kraken has a brand that involves the ocean or water, and at the bottom, he's done a perfect job along the bottom. It's wonderful. It almost looks like mist. It's very spooky almost, so I really like this one. Number 7, the New Jersey Devils. I have no idea why I like this so much. It kind of reminds, there's traditional Christmas lights that just have the colors, but then there's these new Christmas lights that have come out in the last couple of years, which are extremely interactive. And I don't mean with music, I mean just in general. Like they start and they wave, and there's gradients within them, and they move, and they're very futuristic Christmas lights. And I don't have them, but I see lots of people with them, and it reminds me of that. Like the neck specifically, I almost see it like dancing around as if this was an interactive jersey. So a bit of a silly reason to rank this quite high, but I like it at the same time, and it's black, and we need a black alternate jersey that doesn't suck from New Jersey. Also, the logo looks pretty cool with that gradient in there. Let's move on to number 6. I put the Florida Panthers. This is pretty close to perfection. I love the shade of blue with the orange, love the shoulder design, very close to the reverse retro. The arms along the bottom are perfect. The only criticism... Oops, sorry, that's my computer. The only criticism I have is actually the gradient in the C and in the numbers. I think it's too much. I think if that was solid color, it would look a little bit better, and just to leave the gradient at the bottom of the sleeves. Getting into the top 5, we've got the Dallas Stars, and it's very close to the Star jersey from the mid to late 90s. And by the way, the Dallas Stars came out with a specialty jersey that they're going to be wearing on Zubov's retirement night. And it's essentially the exact jersey that existed in the 90s, and it's the one that we all want. And I'm going to be talking about it in a separate video, so if you want to see me dissect that jersey, please hit the subscribe button down below if you're new. But this jersey, this concept is really great. It is so wonderfully done. Black into the harsh green with a harsh transition with the stripe, with the star shape, but then the green goes back to the black, and then the black would blend into black pants. So really cool design here. I like it a lot. I like the fact that black is the primary color, or charcoal gray, whatever you want to go with. And yeah, great design. Getting into number 4, and that's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. I love the design of this jersey. I love the lightning bolt coming down. It adds personality and life to the brand and to the team, and it's just perfect in my opinion. It just looks so good. However, there's not much gradient here, so I really wanted to put this in the top 3, but because it has such a lack of gradient in a gradient series, I didn't think it was fair to kind of put it in the top 3. You can barely see it. It starts off black, and it's not even a full vertical transition in gradient. It's almost angled a little bit, and you can kind of see it moving up the jersey this way or this way depending on how you're looking at it, and it looks good. I think it would look really good in person, but it's so gradual and so faint you almost don't see it. So I love the jersey, but couldn't put it in the top 3. Speaking of 3, here's number 3, the Arizona Coyotes. Gradient in the shoulders, gradient along the bottom, but done so calmly that you almost don't see it, kind of like the other one. So I'm trying not to say subtly. I feel like I've said it 1,500 times in this video. So he's done a really good job here. I love the jersey design in general. My favorite part are the shoulders. I think that's a home run. Like total knock out of the park shoulders. Probably the best shoulders I've ever seen on Arizona Coyotes concept. I love the gradient up there. It feels at home. Maybe not so much down below, but on the shoulders, just a great job. Number 2, I put the Columbus Blue Jackets. Phenomenal gradient moving from the bottom of the jersey all the way up the arms up to the shoulders. And it's using off-white, and we get the Canada logo on the front. Sign me up. I'll buy 5. Like, this is amazing. The only critical point is that the numbers bleed into the off-whites kind of in the inside of the arm. Very critical point, but other than that, such a good jersey. Now, number 1, we've got the Nashville Predators. This is the gradient series, okay? He went all for it here. A full gradient in the middle, on the sleeves, from top to bottom, or bottom to top, depending on how you want to transition the gradient. Let's start off from the bottom. Yellow into some lovely striping, looks good, using their colors, into the white. We've got all the way up, transition up into the white. I don't know if it's pure white up here, but it looks good, and it defeats my criticism of a primarily yellow Predators jersey that I don't like. I don't really like the Predators jersey that much because I don't like the yellow, but this bridges the gap for me. It's not primarily yellow. It's almost primarily white because of the majority of white in the logo and then the stripes. So this has a great balance for me, and I love the amount of blue in here as well, in the right shade of blue. The logo looks good. The shoulder patch really pops on the white shoulders. If this jersey existed, I would 100% buy it, and I'm a big fan of this. It's the jersey that goes the hardest, I think, in this whole series that he's designed, maybe other than the Vancouver one. That one's crazy. But this one really goes hard, so I wanted to reward it. I wanted to put it first, and it also just generally looks good. So great job, Brendan, on this one. And all the other ones, thank you so much for submitting those. I really appreciate you. Make sure you guys go check out his work. He's got it, I guess he doesn't have it tagged, but BRENW Designs. Go search that on Twitter or maybe Instagram. I'm sure you'll find him. And I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you're having a good start to your weekend, a good start to 2022 as well. Hope things are going well for you. If you like this video, listen, if you got to this point in the video and you're new, chances are you liked it. That means you got to hit the subscribe button down below if you're new. That means you got to hit the like button. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Adios.